I want you to picture a highly specific and maybe a slightly uncomfortable scenario to start us off today. Just imagine you are sitting across a cafe table from another business owner.
Okay, I can picture that. A little mid-morning coffee break.
Exactly. And you know them really well. You both run remarkably similar businesses right down to the core operations. You operate in the exact same industry.
Right.
You both have a nearly identical annual turnover. Let's call it, I don't know, $3 million a year.
That's a very solid SME.
Yeah, it is. But you are both lying awake at night, stressing about the exact same supply chain delays, the exact same staffing shortages, and the exact same brutal overhead costs. You are essentially business twins.
It is the classic entrepreneurial mirror. I mean, you look at them and you just see your own daily grind reflected right back at you over your cappuccino.
Exactly. But let's fast forward this scenario. Let's just jump 3 years into the future. Over that 36-month period, a striking, almost unbelievable divergence happens between you and this person sitting across the table.
A divergence in a good way or a bad way?
Well, for them, a very good way. That other business owner receives a $20,000 direct cash injection, specifically earmarked for exporting.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then 6 months later, they receive another $50,000 for innovation. Following that, they secure a massive $100,000 grant for workforce development.
That is a lot of capital flowing in.
It is. And on top of all of that hard cash, they're suddenly receiving government-funded executive mentoring and fully subsidized, high-level technical training for their entire middle management team.
Which fundamentally transforms their operational capacity. I mean, they are no longer just surviving at that point. They have a war chest to actually build systems and scale.
It is completely game-changing. But here's the kicker. What do you receive over those same 3 years while you were grinding away?
I'm guessing not a lot.
Absolutely nothing. $0. Zero mentoring. Zero subsidized training. You are still paying full price for every single mistake and every single new hire.
Ouch. Yeah, that is a tough pill to swallow.
And here is the immediate, sobering context that we need to establish right out of the gate for this deep dive. The difference between you and that business owner sitting across the table wasn't that they had a higher IQ.
Right.
It wasn't that they hired some expensive lobbyist or had a secret Rolodex of elite political connections. It wasn't even that they had more raw entrepreneurial hustle than you.
So what was it? Because I think a lot of people immediately assume the game is rigged when they hear numbers like that.
Well, the difference was astonishingly simple. And frankly, a little frustrating for a lot of people to accept. The difference was simply knowing exactly where to look and understanding the mechanics of a system that most people completely ignore.
Which brings us directly to the mission of today's deep dive. We are exploring a fascinating, remarkably hidden landscape within the Australian economy today.
We really are. We've got a stack of sources here detailing government business funding opportunities.
Specifically, government grants that surprisingly few businesses ever apply for. Or, to be completely honest, even know exists in the first place.
Yeah, the awareness gap is staggering.
Our fundamental baseline goal today is to completely dismantle a very pervasive, very damaging assumption. There is this deeply ingrained cultural belief that government grants are exclusively reserved for, high-tech startups building apps in a garage.
Or elite university researchers in white lab coats.
Exactly. Or massive multinational corporations who have entire departments dedicated to paperwork.
Yeah.
But the data we are looking at today reveals that this is fundamentally untrue.
It's just a myth.
We are going to unpack the reality that there are hundreds of distinct programs available right now, spanning across everyday operational innovation, service exporting, basic skills training, and digital transformation for everyday, quote-unquote, boring businesses.
It's literally like driving a car.
Yeah.
You're in the driver's seat, you are stressed out, your knuckles are white on the steering wheel, and you are paying absolute top dollar for the gas just to keep the engine turning over.
Right, feeling every bump in the road.
But right there on the side of the road, there is a government mechanic standing outside a garage, holding a hose, offering you a completely free nitrous boost for your engine. The overarching question we are tackling today is, why are so many of us just driving right past the garage without even tapping the brakes?
It's a great analogy. And to understand why we drive past the garage, we first have to Well, put the car in park and examine the psychological barrier that sits right at the foundation of this whole issue.
The mindset stuff.
Yeah, the mindset. We have to talk about the belief that there is no free money. I mean, every seasoned entrepreneur has that phrase tattooed on their brain.
Oh, absolutely. If someone offers you free money, it's a scam. Run the other way.
And the fascinating thing we need to acknowledge right away is that this adage is, technically speaking, entirely true.
Wait, hold on. If it is true, then what are we even talking about today? We just spent the last 5 minutes teasing hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding available to ordinary businesses.
Right, but the premise of the phrase is true. Government grants are absolutely not charity.
Okay, so what are they?
The government is not a philanthropic organization handing out cash because they feel generous toward hardworking small business owners. When you look at the architecture of these grants, you realize they are highly calculated strategic investments by the state.
So they want something back.
Exactly. Governments use funding to actively manufacture the economic landscape they desire. They fund the specific activities that they mathematically need more of to sustain a healthy national economy.
So it's a transaction. What exactly is on that shopping list? I mean, what are they trying to buy with this funding?
They want more innovation because that keeps the country globally competitive and increases overall productivity. They want more exporting because that brings foreign capital into the domestic economy.
Which strengthens the currency and the tax base, right?
Spot on. They desperately want job creation and skills development because that directly reduces unemployment burdens and raises income tax revenue. They are heavily targeting domestic manufacturing, regional growth, and renewable energy adoption.
So it's very targeted.
Very. When a government gives a business $50,000, they are looking for a return on that investment. They want a stronger, more resilient, more capable business sector that aligns with those big national goals.
So they aren't giving you money to be nice.
Yeah.
They aren't rewarding you for working 60-hour weeks. They're essentially hiring your business to execute a tiny piece of their national economic strategy.
That is a perfect mental pivot to make. You are becoming a localized delivery mechanism for a national priority. And once you understand that, the entire concept of a grant shifts.
It stops being a lottery ticket.
Exactly. It shifts from being a mysterious lottery ticket that you just hope to win to a logical transactional partnership. You are offering them a vehicle to achieve their goals, and they are offering you the capital to fuel that vehicle.
Let's unpack this ecosystem, though, because the reality on the ground, reading through these sources, paints a picture of a landscape that is deeply, deeply fragmented.
Oh, fragmented is an understatement. It's a mess.
It is not just one big, beautiful website with a giant Apply Here button where you type in your business number and out pops a check.
I wish. That would make my job a lot easier.
Right. But founders and business owners consistently highlight how ridiculously spread out these opportunities are. You have federal government websites, state government portals, local city councils.
Not to mention university partnerships, regional accelerators, industry bodies, and specialized economic development agencies.
It's endless. They're all holding little buckets of money, and none of them seem to talk to each other.
And that fragmentation is precisely what creates the massive awareness gap. It is an absolute labyrinth out there.
Because business owners are inherently time poor.
Exactly. They are dealing with client fires, payroll issues, inventory delays, staff calling in sick. They do not have the spare bandwidth to spend 20 hours a week monitoring 12 different council websites and 3 different federal portals just in case a highly specific grant window opens for 30 days.
Which leads to what I think is the most mind-bending insight we've uncovered in this whole deep dive. The biggest challenge for a business owner trying to get a grant is not that they are competing in some cutthroat arena against 10,000 other hyper-qualified, brilliant businesses.
No, the reality, and this is the core realization that you, the listener, need to internalize right now, is that many of these grant programs actually close their application windows with too few qualified applicants.
Wait, really? Too few?
Yes, they literally leave money unspent. The funds get rolled back into general revenue or reallocated because the awareness gap is so severe.
That is crazy.
The people who desperately need the funding simply never knew the specific portal existed, or they found out about it, 3 days after the deadline passed.
Okay, I have to push back on this. I mean, I understand the mechanics of what you're saying, but if the government has money left over at the end of a grant cycle, isn't that a massive failure of public policy?
From a marketing perspective, yes.
Because if governments are these highly rational strategic investors, and they actually want this money deployed into the economy to hit their macroeconomic goals, why on earth do they make it a scavenger hunt?
That's a fair question.
Why should the burden be on an exhausted, time-poor business owner to navigate 12 broken portals? Is this massive fragmentation a bug in the bureaucratic system? Or is it secretly a feature designed to filter out the people who aren't serious?
It is really a combination of both. But primarily, it is an unavoidable consequence of how public administration works. Think about the layers of government.
Okay, I've been thinking about it.
You have a local city council trying to solve a highly specific local issue, say revitalizing a single high street in one specific town that has seen a lot of retail closures.
Right. So they have a small grant for shopfront renovations.
Exactly. But at the exact same time, you have the federal government trying to solve massive international trade deficits by encouraging software exports to Asia.
Totally at a scale.
Completely different. And those two entities do not share a single unified IT system. They do not share a marketing department. They have completely different budgets, different legislative mandates, and different fiscal timelines. So the fragmentation is mostly a massive, unavoidable bug of bureaucracy.
But it functions as a feature because the end result is that it weeds people out.
It inadvertently functions as a highly effective filter, because who ends up navigating the labyrinth?
The people who actually have their act together.
Precisely. The business owners who are organized, persistent, proactive, and strategic. If you cannot be bothered to track down the opportunity, read the complex guidelines, and put together a coherent, financially sound application.
The government assumes you probably can't run the project either.
Exactly. They assume, rightly or wrongly, that you probably do not have the operational rigor to successfully execute the project and deliver that return on investment they are looking for.
It is an accidental competency test. Like, if you can't manage the paperwork to get the money, you probably can't manage the money once you get it.
That is exactly how the system views it. The friction is the filter.
That makes a frustrating amount of sense. So now that we understand the money is out there, that it is a strategic investment rather than charity, and that the programs are chronically underapplied for due to this massive awareness gap, we need to look at the specific categories.
The areas where businesses are disqualifying themselves?
Yes, they are taking themselves out of the race before the starting gun even fires, just based on terminology. And the data points directly to two massive categories where this happens constantly: exporting and innovation.
Export support is perhaps the single most misunderstood category in the entire grant ecosystem. When you say the word export to an average business owner, an incredibly rigid image forms in their head.
I do the exact same thing. You say export, and I immediately picture heavy machinery. I picture massive shipping containers stacked up at a port.
Right, cranes and hard hats.
Exactly. I picture pallets of physical products, mining equipment, agricultural goods, manufactured widgets, just being loaded onto a cargo ship bound for another continent. If a business owner doesn't own a forklift, they assume they aren't an exporter.
And that assumption leaves millions of dollars unclaimed. The Australian government has long supported exporters through programs designed to help businesses enter international markets and grow overseas sales.
But here is the critical correction from the sources. Service businesses can often qualify too.
Absolutely. You do not need a shipping container. You just need an international client.
When you look at who is actually getting this money, it is wild. We are talking about management consultants, software as a service companies,
Training providers.
digital marketing agencies.
Yes, professional services like legal, architectural, or engineering firms.
Let's really emphasize this for the listener by building a concrete scenario, because this is where the light bulb usually turns on. Imagine a mid-sized architectural firm based in Melbourne.
Okay, Melbourne Architects, got it. They design sustainable commercial buildings. Up until now, all their clients have been in Victoria or New South Wales. But they want to expand, so they start pitching their design services to property developers in Dubai or Singapore.
So they're doing Zoom calls, sending emails.
Exactly. They are delivering CAD files, blueprints, and video consultations. Nothing physical is ever put on a boat.
But from the government's perspective, that is an export.
a highly valuable export. Think about the flow of money. If that Melbourne firm wins a contract in Dubai, that Dubai developer pays them in foreign currency.
Which then enters the Australian banking system.
Yes, and it pays the salaries of local Australian architects who then spend that money in local Melbourne cafes and grocery stores. You have brought new wealth into the domestic economy.
So the government wants more of that.
They are desperate for more of that, and they have massive grant programs specifically designed to offset the costs required to win those overseas contracts.
What kind of cost are we talking about here? Because pitching a client overseas isn't cheap, even if you aren't shipping a physical product.
We are talking about reimbursing the costs of international flights to meet those clients face-to-face. The costs of setting up localized marketing campaigns in foreign markets.
Like translating a website.
Exactly. Translating your website, or hiring a foreign PR firm on the ground in Singapore, or even protecting your intellectual property in a new legal jurisdiction.
So programs like the Export Market Development Grant, the EMDG.
Right, the EMDG. Programs like that are structured to shoulder a significant percentage of those exploratory costs, drastically lowering the financial risk for the business to try and win that international work.
That completely flips the script.
Yeah.
You are basically taking a local digital service and realizing the government views it with the same economic importance as exporting a ton of iron ore, relatively speaking.
It's all foreign capital coming in.
So if you are selling a service over Zoom to someone in another country, you need to be looking at export grants.
Precisely. Now let's pivot to the other heavily misunderstood category, innovation grants.
This one suffers from a very similar branding problem.
Yeah.
You bring up the stereotype of exporting, but the stereotype of innovation is just as rigid, if not more so.
Oh, definitely.
People hear innovation grant, and they immediately picture a team of scientists in a sterile clean room. Or, university researchers developing quantum computing.
Or a 22-year-old founder building a revolutionary artificial intelligence platform in a garage.
Right. Which is why the vast majority of traditional small and medium enterprises never even type the word innovation into a grant search bar.
They look at their plumbing business or their bakery or their accounting firm, and they assume their business is too boring to qualify.
But looking at the sources, we need to completely redefine innovation. It is much broader than high-tech.
It includes new products, of course, but it also includes improved services, new manufacturing methods, new business processes, and commercialization projects.
Western Australia's Innovation Booster Grant is a perfect example from the text to anchor this. The language used to describe what it funds is incredibly grounded.
It's very practical.
It offers funding for, quote, product development, validation, specialist expertise, commercialization support, and technical problem solving.
Technical problem solving, that's the phrase.
Yes. Technical problem solving is the phrase that jumps out to me too. That is not about inventing a teleportation device. That is about looking at a bottleneck in your everyday operations and engineering a novel way to overcome it.
Let's create another scenario to illustrate this, because this happens all the time. Imagine a medium-sized logistics warehouse.
Moving boxes.
Exactly. You aren't building AI. You are moving boxes of consumer goods.
Yeah.
But let's say you realize that the way your team picks and packs orders is incredibly inefficient.
Too much walking back and forth.
Right. And the standard off-the-shelf software doesn't integrate with the specific type of physical conveyor belt you have in your facility. So you decide to fix it. You hire a specialist engineering firm and a local software developer to custom design a new warehouse layout combined with a bespoke piece of inventory tracking software that seamlessly talks to your specific hardware.
So you're building a custom solution.
Yes. And the result is that your entire warehouse operates 20% faster with fewer packing errors.
That is new business process.
Yeah.
That is technical problem solving. It's about commercial viability and operational efficiency, not sci-fi technology.
Exactly.
You didn't invent the internet, but you invented a highly specific, novel solution to a complex operational problem.
And that warehouse owner would be a prime candidate for an innovation grant. The government wants Australian businesses to be highly efficient and globally competitive.
Because if a new internal process allows that warehouse to process 20% more volume, that means they're likely going to hire more dispatch staff.
Which increases their taxable revenue and builds a more resilient business. The grant is the catalyst to make that boring innovation happen faster by offsetting the costs of those external engineering and software specialists.
If innovation is much broader than we initially think, And exporting is much broader than we initially think. It opens the door to even more surprising sectors.
Sectors where government funds are just hiding in plain sight.
It absolutely does. And this brings us to two unlikely gold mines that the vast majority of small and medium entrepreneurs actively ignore: energy efficiency and defense.
I love talking about these two.
I want to dive deep into the energy piece first, because the math on this one is wild. It's one of the few places where the financial logic is almost completely unassailable.
It really is.
We are looking at a scenario where the government has this massive dual desire. On one hand, they have aggressive national and international commitments to lower greenhouse gas emissions.
Right, the climate targets.
But on the other hand, they want domestic businesses to improve their operational efficiency so they don't go bankrupt under the weight of surging utility costs.
Which unlocks a tremendous amount of substantial funding programs. We are talking about federal and state initiatives specifically targeting solar installations, massive battery storage systems, comprehensive energy audits.
Major equipment upgrades too, right?
Oh yeah, like replacing ancient commercial refrigeration units and just broad sustainability initiatives.
Let's do the math out loud on this, because this is where the concept of the ROI accelerant really comes into play.
Okay, let's break it down.
Let's say you run a medium-sized cold storage facility. You are keeping perishable food frozen, and your monthly electricity bill is just astronomical.
It's eating all your profit.
Right. You bring in a consultant, and they tell you that installing a massive $200,000 solar panel and battery system on your massive warehouse roof will cut your energy bill by 70%.
Even without a single dollar of government funding, that is likely a very smart business move.
Right, because you calculate your savings, and you realize that the $200,000 system will pay for itself in lower electricity bills over, say, 7 years.
It is already a profitable operational upgrade. After year 7, it's pure profit. You're printing money in savings.
But 7 years is a really long time for a small business to wait to recoup capital. And that upfront $200,000 is a massive hit to your cash flow today.
Exactly. It's a huge hurdle. But when you introduce the energy grant into that equation, the math radically changes.
How so?
Let's say you find a state or federal grant aimed at reducing commercial emissions that offers 50% match funding.
Okay, so a dollar-for-dollar match.
Yes. The government covers $100,000 and you cover the other 100. Your payback period suddenly drops from 7 years to 3.5 years.
Wow.
Your cash flow improves dramatically, almost instantly. It is one of the very few areas in the entire grant ecosystem where the government is directly subsidizing the permanent reduction of your fixed monthly overhead costs.
It is basically a cheat code for lowering your expenses. And because it makes your business more resilient, the government considers it a win.
A huge win for them.
But as good as that is, we need to talk about the second unlikely gold mine, because this is the one that actually made me stop and do a double take when I was reading the source material.
Yeah.
We need to talk about the massive grants hidden inside the defense supply chain.
This is a sector most small entrepreneurs actively, intentionally ignore.
Yeah, if you run a local IT services company or a regional transport and logistics firm, you do not wake up in the morning, look at your calendar, and think, I wonder what the Department of Defense can do for my bottom line today.
Never. You assume defense funding is an exclusive club reserved for giant multinational aerospace contractors building fighter jets or massive shipbuilding corporations.
But increasingly, that assumption is entirely wrong. The reality is that the defense supply chain is an absolute behemoth. The government has programs like the Australia Defense Industry Development Grants.
And the scale of this funding is staggering. This program supports SME, small and medium enterprises, through funding streams that range from $100,000 all the way up to $1 million.
$1 million grant for an SME is transformative capital. I mean, that changes the trajectory of a company forever.
It really does. And to understand how you get access to it, you have to understand a very crucial concept that defense departments obsess over: sovereign capability.
Sovereign capability. Let's break that down for the listener. Meaning, the government wants to ensure the country have the internal domestic ability to produce essential goods and services.
So they aren't completely reliant on international supply chains if a global crisis hits.
Right. If borders close or shipping lanes are disrupted, Australia needs to be able to function, repair its own equipment, secure its own data, and move its own goods.
Precisely. You do not necessarily need to build weapons to qualify for defense funding. You just need to provide a service that the defense apparatus needs to function, and you need to provide it domestically.
So what kinds of services do they need?
They desperately need local manufacturing for spare parts. They need advanced electronics. They need highly secure software systems. They need robust, reliable logistics and transport. They need high-level security guard services and specialized training providers.
So let's get into the mechanics of how this actually works. Let's say I run a highly efficient regional logistics and trucking company. I have 20 trucks. We move heavy equipment. How do I actually tap into a defense grant?
Well, you can't just call them up.
Right. I can't just call up the Army and say, hey, I have trucks. Give me $1 million.
Definitely not. You have to prove that your business meets the rigorous standards required to be a secure link in their supply chain.
Okay, so there are hoops to jump through.
Big hoops. For example, to haul sensitive materials for a major defense prime contractor, like a massive company building armored vehicles, your trucking company might need to achieve a specific level of compliance under the Defense Industry Security Program, or DISP.
And getting DISP compliance isn't just like filling out a PDF form and sending it in.
No, it is a major, expensive operational upgrade. You might need to install military-grade GPS tracking on your entire fleet.
Which is not cheap.
Not at all. You might need to overhaul your entire internal IT network to meet strict cybersecurity standards. You might need to put your key staff through rigorous background checks and specialized security training.
Okay, so upgrading your business to meet those standards might cost you, what, $150,000?
These?
Which is a massive barrier to entry for a small trucking company. Most owners would look at that $150,000 and say, forget it, it's not worth it, I'll just keep hauling commercial freight for my regular clients.
And that is exactly where the grant comes in. The government actually needs more local trucking companies to be secure and compliant because a secure, capable domestic supply chain is a matter of national security.
So they're motivated to help you upgrade.
Highly motivated. So they will heavily subsidize those upgrades. You apply for a defense industry grant to cover the costs of the cybersecurity overhaul, the GPS upgrades, and the staff training.
So the grant pays for the capability upgrade itself.
Exactly. Now, your business is DISP compliant, you are officially part of the defense supply chain, and you are eligible to bid on lucrative, long-term contracts with major defense suppliers.
It's incredible. You use the grant to level up your entire operational security, which not only gets you defense work, but I imagine makes you a far more appealing contractor for massive commercial clients as well.
Absolutely. If your IT is secure enough for the Department of Defense, it's secure enough for a local mining company.
It's a matter of framing your everyday competence within the context of their strategic national needs.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've talked about funding your internal processes through innovation, funding your overhead through energy efficiency, and funding your massive capability upgrades through defense.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But none of that matters. None of those systems run, no trucks get driven, no software gets coded without the actual human beings executing the vision.
Right, the people.
Which brings us to the internal engine of the business, skills and workforce funding.
This touches on perhaps the most universal complaint you will hear at any networking event, any Chamber of Commerce meeting, or any industry conference in the country right now.
The skills shortage. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Every single entrepreneur I speak to says the exact same thing. I cannot find good people.
The labor market is incredibly tight.
And when I do find someone with potential, I cannot afford the downtime and the financial cost to train them properly. Or worse, I spend 6 months training them, and then a massive corporation swoops in and poaches them because they can offer a higher baseline salary.
It is an agonizing pain point. You feel like you're just a training ground for the big guys.
It's a massive pain point for the business owner, absolutely. But remember, our framework from the very beginning of this conversation, it is also a massive macroeconomic pain point for the government.
Yes. Governments understand that sustained economic growth is literally impossible without a skilled workforce. You cannot build new infrastructure, you cannot transition to green energy, and you cannot digitize the economy if you do not have the human capital to do the actual work.
The hands on keyboards, the boots on the ground.
Exactly. So they regularly fund the solution to this exact problem.
We are talking about funding for apprenticeships, targeted staff training, comprehensive upskilling programs, and broad workforce development initiatives.
There is a lot of money in this sector.
Let's break down how this actually flows to a business. How does a workforce grant tangibly help a business owner who is struggling to hire?
Let's use the apprenticeship model as a clear example because it is heavily subsidized. Imagine you run a mid-sized commercial plumbing business.
Okay, plumbing.
You want to bid on bigger contracts, maybe a new hospital build, but you don't have enough tradespeople. You want to hire 5 new apprentices, but taking on 5 green apprentices is incredibly expensive in their first year.
Because they don't know anything yet.
Right. They make mistakes, they require constant supervision from your senior plumbers, which slows your senior guys down, and their overall productivity is low.
The upfront cost of developing them is huge before they start actually making you money.
So the government steps in with wage subsidies. They might offer a program that covers 50% of the apprentice's wages for the first year and covers the cost of their external training at a technical college.
I really love this concept. You can essentially get the government to financially co-parent the development of your own employees.
Financially co-parenting is a brilliant way to frame it. You are sharing the developmental cost of the employee with the state.
And the logic is incredibly sound for both parties.
It's a win-win. By subsidizing that training, the government is dramatically lowering the barrier to expansion for your plumbing company. You can take on those 5 apprentices because your wage risk is halved.
And simultaneously, the government is upgrading the overall skill level of the national workforce. They are building the next generation of tradespeople that they need for their infrastructure projects.
Exactly. And from the business owner's perspective, if you are an entrepreneur planning to grow, securing workforce-related funding is mathematically just as valuable to your bottom line as a direct cash injection.
Because a dollar saved on vital training or early-stage wages is a dollar you can deploy into marketing or equipment or cash reserves.
You hire for potential and attitude, and the government steps in to help pay for the actual skills acquisition.
It levels the playing field against those massive corporations who have endless training budgets.
It really does. It gives SMEs a fighting chance.
All right, let's take a deep breath and look at where we are. We have established that the government is willing to help train your staff and subsidize wages. They're willing to lower your energy bills.
They will fund your new internal software.
They will give you money to sell your services on Zoom to clients in Dubai. If all of this is true, we have to stop and ask the really uncomfortable question.
The elephant in the room.
We have to look at the fatal flaws. Why do the vast majority of business owners never submit a single application?
When you talk to business owners and ask why they ignore grants, they almost always offer a standard litany of excuses. It's the big 3.
What are they?
Number 1, the paperwork is too hard. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. Number 2, the odds are too low. I'm competing against thousands of people. It's basically a lottery. And number 3, the process is too slow. I need money this month to make payroll, not in 9 months when the government finally makes a decision.
Okay, I want to genuinely defend the business owner here. I want to advocate for the person listening to this right now who is just exhausted. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a lean SME.
Okay, let's do it.
You have a core team of maybe 5 or 6 people. Everyone is wearing multiple hats. The founder is doing sales, HR, and probably taking out the trash at the end of the day.
That's not common.
When you are operating that lean, spending 40 to 50 hours compiling 3 years of audited financial statements, writing 10,000 words of long-form answers for a grant application, and sourcing multiple vendor quotes might literally mean ignoring your actual paying clients for a week.
Your revenue might drop while you apply.
Exactly. So is the complaint that the paperwork is too hard really just an excuse? Or is it a genuine structural resource allocation problem for small teams? The system demands time that small businesses simply do not have.
That is a very fair, very real pushback. It absolutely is a resource allocation problem, and the administrative burden is heavy. I will never deny that government paperwork is torturous.
It's soul-crushing sometimes.
But we have to look at how successful entrepreneurs reframe that exact same problem. It is a resource allocation problem based on a flawed premise of what the return on that time investment could be.
What do you mean by that? Flawed premise.
Let's do the math again. If you, as the founder, spend 40 grueling hours writing a grant and you secure a $50,000 cash injection for your business.
Okay, 40 hours for 50 grand.
You have essentially valued your time on that project at over $1,200 an hour.
Oh, wow. When you put it like that.
Right. Most SME owners are not generating $1,200 an hour of pure profit from their standard day-to-day client work. The problem is they view the grant application as a distraction from their real business, rather than recognizing that strategically pursuing capital is a core business function of a growing enterprise.
That is a massive mindset shift. valuing the application time as a high-yield internal project. You aren't stepping away from your business to write a grant. Writing the grant is the most profitable thing you could do for your business that week.
Exactly. It's high leverage work.
But even with that mindset shift, we have to talk about the biggest, most ironic mistake that people make when they finally decide to look for funding. We have to talk about the startup trap.
This is one of the most consistent patterns in the entire ecosystem. When you say the word grant, the demographic that searches for them the most furiously, with the most desperation, are early-stage startup founders.
People with an idea on a napkin.
Exactly. Maybe a half-built prototype looking for seed money to launch their business.
And the irony is that startup grants, as a broad category, are consistently the absolute hardest to get. Entrepreneurs are furiously hunting for lifelines, but the government is not in the business of throwing life preservers to people who haven't learned to swim yet.
To understand why, we have to go back to our very first principle. The government is a strategic investor. What is the one thing all investors, especially bureaucratic ones, managing taxpayer money with intense public oversight, absolutely despise?
Risk. They hate risk.
Exactly.
Because if a politician gives taxpayer money to a guy with an idea on a napkin, and that business folds 3 months later, it's a scandal. It's front-page news. Government wastes millions on failed app.
They are exceptionally risk-averse. A startup with no product, no revenue, and no track record is the highest risk investment imaginable.
So who do they prefer?
Governments generally prefer supporting businesses that have demonstrated traction. They want to see existing customers. They want to see proven growth potential.
The sources mention that experienced founders constantly observe that many funding programs mandate a minimum trading history, often 1 to 2 years.
Yes, they require verifiable revenue. They want to see existing W-2 employees. They want concrete evidence of market validation before a single dollar of funding becomes available.
So the translation is, the government is not an angel investor. They do not want to fund your 0 to 1 journey. The risk of failure is too high. They want to fund your 1 to 10 journey, where the concept is proven and you just need capital to scale.
Precisely. This means the absolute best time to look for a grant isn't before you start your business, when you are desperate for cash and have no leverage.
Right.
The best time to actively seek government funding is after you have already begun building momentum. You use the grant to pour gasoline on a fire that is already burning, not to try and spark the initial flame in the dark.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So if overcoming the resource allocation problem requires a fundamental shift in how a business approaches the whole concept, we need to move from a reactive scramble to a proactive strategy.
Yes.
We need to talk about the quote-unquote real secret of grant success, because the people who win these grants aren't just lucky, they have a system.
When you study the pattern of successful applicants, the ones who consistently secure funding year after year, a very clear methodology emerges. And the real secret is surprisingly counterintuitive.
What is it?
The winners rarely, if ever, chase grants.
Meaning they don't wake up on a Tuesday, look at a government portal, see a random grant for, say, agricultural drone technology, and suddenly try to pivot their logistics company to fit the criteria just to get the money.
Exactly. That is the reactive scramble. That leads to mission creep, where you build a Frankenstein business just to appease a grant assessor.
Because you're chasing the shiny object.
The successful approach is completely inverted. They write a robust, comprehensive business plan first. They figure out exactly where they want to take the company over the next 3 years, regardless of funding.
Right, they set their own course.
Then, and only then, do they go looking for grants that support that existing predetermined plan. The crucial distinction here is that the grant must be the catalyst to achieve your goals faster. The grant cannot be the business strategy itself.
Because if the grant is the strategy and you don't get the grant, your business dies. You have built a dependency, not a business.
Exactly. You build a resilient business plan that can survive and grow without government money. The grant simply accelerates the timeline.
The information we are reviewing actually lays out a highly practical 3-step strategy to execute this proactive approach. Let's walk through it, because this is the operational playbook for the listener.
Step 1 is simple: register and monitor.
Which directly addresses the awareness gap we discussed earlier. You cannot apply for what you cannot see.
You have to get out of the labyrinth and have the information pushed to you. A great starting point in Australia is the Federal Grants and Programs Finder.
Just a central database.
Right, but it doesn't stop there. You need to set up automated email alerts on your state government business websites. And crucially, you need to stay actively engaged with your specific industry associations.
Like your local chamber of commerce or your manufacturing council, your tech incubator.
Yes, they are often the first to announce niche, highly specific funding pools before they ever hit the mainstream press.
Okay, so step 2 is to focus. Specifically, to focus your monitoring on the 6 core categories that the government cares about the most.
And based on everything we've covered, these make total sense.
They really do. Let's list them out. The 6 categories are exporting, innovation, technology adoption, energy efficiency, skills development, and manufacturing.
The reason you focus your energy on those 6 pillars is simply a matter of probability. These are the areas that consistently, year over year, across different political administrations and changing economic climates, attract government support.
They are the evergreen priorities.
Exactly. If your business plan touches on one of those 6 pillars, your odds of finding a matching grant increase exponentially. If you are doing something completely outside those 6 areas, you are going to be fighting a serious uphill battle.
And then we get to step 3, which I think is the most critical operational advice in this entire discussion. Step 3 is prepare before opening.
This is where the game is won or lost.
The expert observation here is that most businesses start preparing their documents only after the application window opens. They see an announcement, they panic, and they start scrambling.
But successful businesses prepare beforehand. They build a ready-to-go portfolio.
Because application windows are often brutally, intentionally short.
Sometimes a portal will open and close within 3 or 4 weeks. Or worse, it will operate on a first-come, first-served basis and close the exact moment the allocated funds are exhausted, which could be in 4 days.
4 days? That's insane.
If you spend 3 weeks of a 4-week window just trying to get your accountant to email you your updated financial statements...
I've already lost.
Exactly. The organized applicant submitted their paperwork on day 2.
We have a checklist for this portfolio from the sources. You need pristine, up-to-date financial statements for the last 2 years. You need a formalized, well-written business plan.
You need a clear growth strategy that explains how you will create jobs or increase revenue.
You need a modular project budget that you can easily adapt to fit specific grant criteria. And you need hard customer evidence.
Testimonials, signed contracts, market research that proves people actually want what you are selling.
Having that portfolio assembled means that when a grant finally aligns with your existing strategy, the actual application process takes a fraction of the time.
You are copying and pasting from a deeply considered, highly polished master document rather than writing panicked, incoherent answers at 2 in the morning the night before the deadline.
You essentially need to treat this entire portfolio like a financial go-bag for an emergency. But instead of being packed with survival gear and freeze-dried food to survive a natural disaster, it is packed with your growth strategy, your profit and loss statements, and your project budgets.
Sitting by the door.
Exactly. It is sitting by the door, completely ready to grab the exact second a grant application window opens.
The financial go-bag ensures you are never the victim of a tight deadline again. It shifts you from being reactive and stressed to being proactive and ready to deploy.
So as we bring all of these complex threads together, we have to look at the ultimate synthesis of this deep dive. The main takeaway from exploring this entire ecosystem today wasn't just to act as a cheerleader telling you to go apply for grants.
No, it is much deeper and more strategic than that.
The core mission was to highlight how profoundly entrepreneurs underestimate the resources that are already available to them, sitting quietly in the background of the economy. We assume we have to do it all alone, using only our own revenue and our own credit lines.
And we have to reiterate the grounded reality. Government funding is never, ever going to make a fundamentally bad business successful.
If your product is terrible, if your customer service is awful, or if your unit economics are completely upside down, a $50,000 grant is just going to help you fail slightly later with more paperwork.
But it will emphatically help a good business grow significantly faster.
It provides the capital leverage to aggressively enter new international markets without risking bankruptcy.
It allows you to confidently hire and train top-tier staff in a tight labor market.
It allows you to rapidly develop innovative products or upgrade your internal systems and fundamentally reduce the financial risk of scaling your operations.
And it circles us right back to that somewhat uncomfortable scenario at the very beginning of our conversation.
You are sitting at that cafe table. You are looking at that identical business owner who has scaled massively while you have stagnated.
And you finally realize that the massive difference in your trajectories over those 3 years wasn't raw talent. It wasn't blind luck.
It was simply the fact that they knew where the hidden opportunities were. They had their financial go bag packed and ready, and they took proactive action while everyone else was busy complaining about how unfair the paperwork was.
They understood the rules of the strategic investment game. They recognized the government as a potential partner rather than an adversary, and they chose to play the game to win.
Which leaves me with one final, frankly provocative thought that I want you, the listener, to mull over as you go back to running your business today.
I like a good provocative thought.
We have spent this entire deep dive establishing that government grants are not free money. We've completely accepted that they are highly calculated, highly strategic investments deployed by the state to intentionally manufacture the specific economic landscape they want to see in the next decade.
They fund what they want more of.
Which is a very deliberate shaping of the future market. They're laying the tracks for where they want the economy to go.
Exactly.
So if that is true, if they're laying the tracks, does that mean the federal grant directory, that fragmented, frustrating, bureaucratic list of funding portals, isn't just a place to find money?
What else would it be?
Is it actually a crystal ball? Think about it. If you track exactly where the government is systematically injecting hundreds of millions of dollars, if you notice they are suddenly pouring massive amounts of cash into specific types of battery energy storage, or specific localized digital transformations, or highly specific cybersecurity defense skills, can you use that public data to perfectly predict the future economic landscape of the country?
Oh, that is fascinating.
And more importantly, can you use that crystal ball to aggressively pivot your own business model to meet that highly funded future, positioning yourself right where the money is flowing before your competitors even realize the landscape is changing?
Mad show, let's go, open up your mind.